Let me admit those who are joining. Okay. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
All right, fantastic. So, let's continue from where we left off. Next time I will use a proper tool. I didn't know about this limitation on Zoom. Okay, so we've realized that the result we get when we put it in quote is different from when we don't put it in quote, and we understand why because of the explanation we got earlier on. Now the question is, what if I wanted to print my name is and then put whatever I've stored in the memory there? Okay, Python allows that, and it uses what is known as F strings. F stands for formatted strings, so F strings. You will see how we do it. I put this here, and then I say my name is, and then I put curly brackets, and then I put a variable name in there like this, full name. Okay, this is not going to work. I'm intentionally doing this so that it will not work. Then you always remember what will make it work. Let's run this. You see that I got my name is and the full name still in curly brackets. The reason is for you to make a string, and by the way, a string in any programming language is anything you put in quote. We call it a string or a text, a string of characters. Okay. So to make it an F string, you need to precede the starting quote with an F. So what this tells Python is that everything that is not inside a curly bracket, print it as you see it, as I have given you. But if you see something in curly bracket, then fetch it somewhere from memory. Is that clear?
Please repeat that.
Okay. I said the F here stands for formatted strings. And what it tells Python is that everything that is not in curly brackets, like my name is, including the space, is not inside a curly bracket. So it should print it just as you have typed it. But if it finds anything in a curly bracket, it should treat it as a variable. So it has to read it from memory. You get it? So it will print my name is, and Python will see that full name is in curly brackets. So it means it has to go into memory and fetch it somewhere. And when it goes into memory, because we have already stored a.py there, it will find a.py and put it here. So I'm going to save this and then I'll run it. So you see, the second time we tried without the F, we didn't precede the string with an F. So it printed it as it was. Okay, but this time around, because we preceded it with an F, it printed my name is, and then because of this F here, it printed my name is, and then because we put full name in curly brackets, it knows that it has
Hi.
to read it from memory. Hi, hello. Any question? From my experience, this is one part that troubles people the most. So if it's troubling you, I can go over it again. Is it troubling anybody? Okay, so then I can assume that we all do understand it very well. So the question then is, let's say I store age, okay? I put age here. Let's say I'm 900 years old. So I'll say age is equal to 900, right? So what if I want to say my name is Edward Pi and whatever I've put in age years old? It's simple. Somebody will ask me, why is it that I didn't put age in quote? Okay. The reason I didn't put age in quote is because age is an integer. In every programming language, it's only text strings that we put in quote. If it's a number and you want it to be treated as a number, like mathematically as a number, you don't put it in quote. So this one says my age is 900. So I can modify this F string here to say my name is Edward Pi and I am, then I put age years old, like this. Okay, if I do this and I run this program, you see my name is Edward Pi. It went to fetch the Edward Pi because of this curly bracket, and then I put full name, which is a variable here, and then I said I am age years old. So because age is also in curly bracket, it fetches it from memory, and it's all happening because of this F here that turns it into an F string. If I don't put the F, I'm removing it once more so that you remember, so that in the future, or if tonight you are practicing what we've learned and you realize that you are trying to do F strings, but it is printing out exactly what you put in there, then you remember you've omitted the F that you should have started it with. So if I do this, you see the difference is it print my name is full name and I am 8 years old. That's not what we want. We want to put the F here. That's what turns into an F string. You don't put it inside, it's before the starting quote. So my name is, then it meets this variable name in curly bracket. So it will go to memory, go and read the content, put it here. So what is happening here is known as substitution. Okay, it's like your mathematics teacher telling you if x is equal to 2, find 2x plus 1. We know that that is 5 because x is equal to 2 and 2x is 2 times 2, 4 plus 1, 5. Okay, so it's basic substitution that is happening here. So this is our x. I said full name, I put something in there. I said age, I put something in there. Now I'm telling it that it should read whatever is in there and substitute it in place of wherever it sees this curly bracket with a variable name in there. Okay, so I presume we all understand up to this point. I will show you 2 more things before we close, or I'll take general questions, or if you ask me any question, I can give you any answer that is correct or appropriate for the question. And then you have ample time to practice these things. And then when we meet again, we'll learn even more advanced things until we can build fantastic things together. All right, so there is something called comment in code, and every programming language has some character or characters that it uses to indicate that something is a comment. Yeah, Nana, please go with your question.
Is it too early to talk about concatenation or concatenate? Or
Um,
storing strings and integers in the same?
Yeah, I would show that when we are starting data types.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, okay, cool. Somebody wants to join. Okay. All right. So every language has what is known as comment, and a comment is the purpose of comment is for your fellow human beings. Okay. I can open some Python code that I've written, maybe 2,000 lines of code in just one file, and this project has maybe 100 files of Python code. So even you who is working on such a thing, if you leave the project for maybe a month or 2 and you come back to it, you realize that there are certain things you don't really remember. It's like, why did I do this in this way? What was I doing here? Blah, blah, blah. So to save you that future hassle, there is comment. It's just some text that you put in there, one, for your fellow human being, because if you are not working solo and you are working in a software engineering team, mostly you are editing other people's code, other people are editing your code. So one, it's important that you write very good code, like these variable names that I mentioned. Like I didn't call this age because I'm storing age in it. I could have called it Muhammad. Okay, I could have said I could have called this Muhammad, and I could have called this Baumia. Okay, all I have to do is to change this one to Baumia, and I'll change this to Muhammad. But the thing is, it doesn't make sense. What is Baumia is equal to 800 pi, Muhammad is equal to 900. So you see, semantically and syntactically it makes sense, but you are putting a cognitive load on your fellow programmer who will read this. So the syntax wise is correct, and so semantically it has a meaning. If I run this code, we get the same output we got. Okay, so your variable name, Python doesn't force you to choose a proper variable name. Whatever you choose there, As long as you reuse it, like when you want to read a value, it has no problem with it. But it is proper. It is proper programming behavior to choose variable names that are descriptive. There are few things that Python will not allow. For example, for you to start a variable name with a number, no. It should always start with an alphabet. Once it begins with an alphabet, you can put numbers in there. Or sometimes you can use underscores if the thing is it's not monosyllabic. So if a variable name is, let's say, database connector, you do the database hyphen underscore connector. You can use hyphen. These are some of the basic rules. I don't want to sweat it. Just stick to choosing descriptive names and everything is going to be fine. So I was talking about comments. In Python, a comment is anything that starts with the pound or the hash character. People call it pound. I don't know. There's the actual pound for the British pound, but some people call this pound. Others call it the hash character. If you put this in there, you see, my text editor have changed this line to green. It is telling me that this line, the Python interpreter will not run it. Why? Because it's a comment. Anything that starts with this character becomes a comment. So if I save this file and I run it, we will not see any output. You see? It doesn't mean that it didn't put Edward Pi in the RAM and it didn't put 900. It did. So in my RAM, it was there. Just that we didn't read it out. We didn't use it for anything because I commented this one out. So if you want to comment something out, you just put the this character there. Now, the essence of comments, like I was saying, is to help you remember what you are doing. People overdo commenting. Okay, just because you have to write comment doesn't mean, okay, this one, then you put it here, declaring variable to store name. No, it's this is so basic, it doesn't need a comment, because every programmer, when they see line 2, they know that, okay, you are declaring a variable and you are storing a .py in there. So reserve comment for when it is really necessary, like you are doing something, I don't want to say clever, because in programming, if you can choose not to be clever and still get the thing correct, don't be clever. Because you see, as you are being clever in your code, you are putting a cognitive load on your fellow programmer who will read your code later. That maybe some new trick you've learned somewhere that is not common in the programming world, and you use it there. Your fellow who has to modify, you are just burdening the person. So if there is a simpler way that achieves the exact same thing, please use the simpler way. Unless that cleverness is absolutely necessary, then you can be clever and then you leave a comment to explain, so that when somebody sees that clever thing and is not getting the picture correctly, the person has to read the comment to understand, okay, this is what my colleague was thinking. Or sometimes I have worked in companies where there is a part of code somebody will say, do not touch. You touch it, if you are not careful, you won't close that day, because some decisions were made 5 years ago when the company was started. You were not there, right? And then you joined 2 months ago. You saw, oh, wait, listen, there's something wrong with it. Let me change it. You change it, and the whole production system comes down. You are costing them money. So somebody will put something there like, do not touch, or talk to ABC before you touch this part of the code. Please observe those ones as well if you want to be happy in your teams. Now that, this is all there is about comment. Now I'm going to show you the power of variable names, why they are essential and why they are nice. Okay, I mentioned previously that every data or value that you put in your computer's memory, and this I mean the RAM, because there are multiple types of memory in the computer. At this point, we are dealing with a RAM. Okay, the operating system, in the previous session I mentioned that the operating system is like that chief, is the resource allocator, is responsible for distributing the resources of the computer. So it is not every programmer who is able to program a computer that doesn't have an operating system. I do embedded systems as well. I have some robots behind me. These ones mostly don't have any operating system. I just take a raw chip and I program it. We call it bare metal programming. That's another layer of programming altogether, because you don't have any operating system there to be helping you with safeguarding some of these things. But now we are learning, so we all start from somewhere. Like in programming, you start higher level and you go low. If you start low and you come high, the experience is different from when you start up and you go down. Those who start down and they come up, their understanding of computer systems is very deep, because when you start down, it's very difficult. Like people programming in assembly language, I have some assembly code. If I show it to you, it's not clear exactly what I'm doing in there. Okay, at that layer, you think metal, you are thinking like the electronics, what is happening, how are things moving in this circuit and stuff like that. But for us, we start up. When we appreciate this top, it's like a calling. You'll be called into the deep. Don't worry. When you immerse yourself into this thing and you become so interested in it, you see that you yourself, there will be something in you calling you. Okay, this variable, how is it happening? Then you find out. Then you realize, okay, this thing that was happening when I declared a variable, how does it happen? You find yourself beginning to do electronics and all those things, just so you understand very well. But for now, be content with the level where we are learning at. But I want to just take you slightly deeper, so that you appreciate why variables are essential. Okay, so I mentioned that when we declared Edward Pie and we put it somewhere in memory called full name, this full name thing is just a trick that Python is tricking us, because as far as the operating system is concerned, this full name thing, it doesn't operating system doesn't deal with these full name like names. No, everything is numbers. So your 16 gig, your 8 gig, your 4 gig RAM is divided into blocks of cells. Okay, this is why we say, okay, 1 byte, 2 byte, blah blah blah. It is divided into blocks, and each block, each addressable block, has an address. And so when I say put Edward Pie somewhere in memory, the operating system will put it somewhere in memory. The operating system knows the exact address. It's a number, it's a hexadecimal number, like a number in base 16. I don't want to bore you with those details yet. But then it will allow you that, okay, instead of you having to remember this address and program with this address, you assign a name. So what the operating system does behind the scene is it keeps a mapping of the name you gave mapped to the address that the operating system assigned. Let's see it. Now I'm going to comment this one out. I just want us to see the memory address where the value Edward Pie is. So the memory address that we call full name, we want to see it. So I can do this. I'm going to print the address. To find the address of a variable in Python, you use id. Okay, it's a function, so you just put id, and then I come in here and I say full name. So let's see which memory address my full name is stored. If I do this, you see, it tells me that it is stored at address 4543910512. This is not fun to remember, and then you have to be dealing with. No, this is why Python allowed you to assign your own variable name to it. Now note something. You see, when we run it, it says this is the address. I'm going to run it again. The address might change. You see, it has changed. I'm going to run it again. The address have changed. I'm going to run it again. So you see, as to whether the address will be static or not is not even guaranteed to you. So the only guarantee is the name you assigned to it. Then you leave the magic to the operating system. Ask yourself, why is it that in the first time, and these are real addresses in my memory, why is it that, so just to let you know, if whilst I am running my Python program, if I find a way to hack into my RAM and read this particular address outside the Python program, let's say you have some hacking tool that can hack memory, see the addresses and see the values, or you have a debugger, it will actually tell you that Edward Pie is in this memory outside of your Python program, to tell you that this is real. You are really manipulating electronics inside your hardware. You are manipulating the flow of electricity inside your hardware. So this is the address. Now, why is it that anytime you run your program, the address is changing? Because you see, the computer's RAM is not being used by just your program. This terminal itself is using the RAM. The text editor we are using to type is using the RAM. The interpreter, the Python interpreter itself is using the RAM. Zoom that we are using for the call is using the RAM. The camera that is capturing my face, the audio, the internet data that is coming in. When I move my mouse, something happens. So it's very dynamic. So the operating system is like the police. It's like, okay, you put this one here, this is the address, then it will store it somewhere. Okay, this value, this is the address. If I run this program again, you see that the address have changed again. Okay, so if we come here and then we check the address for age also. So I say ID and then I put age. Okay, so let's see the address for full name and age. So the first one is the address for full name. The second one is the address for age. I run it again, they will change. And it goes like that. So imagine that, sorry, imagine there was no concept of variables. Then you somehow have to be keeping track of these addresses. It's not the nicest way to use one's time. And so this is just to help you appreciate what variables are. And then also, if it ever gets to the point where you need to find the address of something in memory, you already know how to do it. Is anybody confused at this stage? Because I want to teach one last and then we can call it off. Trim the video, put it on YouTube, and then I'll post the link on tell it that, so that those of you who want to rewatch can watch, and those who couldn't join can also watch it. Then I'll share some number of videos you should watch prior to next Saturday, so that we can begin to do more fun stuff. These are so basic, so basic, but we have to start from there. Okay, all right, so let me add one more thing. So we know how to print. How do we receive information from the keyboard? With what I have taught you so far and what I'm about to teach you now, you can even begin to build your own program that simulates an ATM. You can't do it completely because there are other things I need to teach you, but at least you can start with, when you go to ATM, it tells you insert your PIN, insert your card, you insert your card, it reads your name from the card, it tells you welcome, Kweku, and then it will present a menu. What do you want to do? Withdrawal, deposit, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes on like that. It's very basic, and we can begin to simulate such things. But of course, because at the ATM, you need to enter your PIN, you need to enter the amount, we need to learn how to receive input from the user. So that's what we are going to do. All right. So let's say I want to write a program that is going to ask somebody, what is your first name? Then the person will have to type their first name. Then it will ask, what is your last name? Then the person will type their last name. Then the program will print the full name of the person, like we did previously. In Python, the function we use to get input from the user is input. At the start, I told you one of the nicest thing about Python is it is so close to English. In other languages, you won't see input. You will see something else, either cin for C++, or scanf for C, or some weird stuff in some other programming languages. Okay, so if I say input, you see, when you are receiving an input, you need to give a prompt. Otherwise, the person doesn't even know what you are expecting from him or her. Okay, so you need to give a prompt. So I want you to enter your first name. So I'll say enter your first name. Okay, and just so I make the prompt look nice, I'll bring a space here and put a colon there. It's not required. It will separate what the person is typing from the prompt. Okay, now this input function, when it executes, let's save this and then let's run it so that you know what I'm talking about. You see, it says enter your first name. You can see that then the program has halted, it has paused, because the input function interrupts something. It is waiting for you to type something And when you hit enter, whatever you typed, the input function will give it back to your program. So then you have to store it in some variable. So let's say I type Edward. Even though I typed Edward, at this point I cannot use it for anything in my program because I'm not receiving it into any variable. So let's receive that into a variable. And because we want to, we are asking for your first name, a very good variable name will be first name. So I'm using an underscore here just to show you that it's possible to use underscores to bring clarity into the naming of your variables. Okay, so I said first name, like first underscore name, it's a variable name, is equal to input enter your first name. So what's happening here is that Python will pause, let the user type in something, hit the enter key, and once the enter key is typed or pressed, whatever was typed prior to the enter key is kept in a buffer. The moment you hit the enter key, that buffer is cleared and everything in that buffer will be dropped into this variable, and we are calling that variable first name. So when I finish, I will take your last name. Let's call that last name. So I'll say enter your last name also. If there's a question, please let it go. And then after I've gotten your last name, I can construct your full name. Okay, so I can say full name is equal to, I'm going to use f strings here. See how I'll do it. Okay, let me make this mistake and then I'll show you the proper thing. Let's say you just wanted to combine the two. Okay, so I'll say first name plus last name. Somebody asked a question about this. Nana Harrison asked a question about this. Line 3. It is called concatenation. When you have two tests and you want to put them together, you use the plus sign. But here is going to be very ugly. Let me show you why. Then I'll print. I'll use f strings here. I'll say your full name. Your full name is, and then I'll do full name. Okay. Now let's run this program. So it asks me, enter your first name. I put Edward. Then now, because I hit enter, it has moved from the first line. It goes to the next one. Enter your last name. I type Pi. When I hit enter, it says your full name is Edward Pi. Look at the way it has put them together because I didn't leave any space in there. Like when you put a plus sign in between two strings, it just concatenates them. It puts them one after the other. But we could do better. We know f strings. F strings is not only used when you are printing. You can actually use a formatted string to create a new string. So I can do this. I remove this. I bring an F and I bring a quote. Then I'll say, I'll put first name here. Then I'll leave a space so that there will be a space between your first name and your last name. So I'll put last name here. Then I'll save. So you see, when I taught you F strings, I taught you how to use it in printing. But actually, anytime you are doing, you want to do formatted strings, you want to substitute some text, you can use f strings. So here I'm saying the full name, it should be whatever is in first name, space, this is the space, and then followed by a last name. So if I do this and I run this program again, now we get a better thing. So I'll say Eddie, and then I'll put Pi here, and then now it tells me your full name is Eddie Pi. If I wanted to do it the university style where they usually print your last name, comma, your first name, all I had to do was I could just, I want to cut this one, or let me just delete it, and now bring a comma here, and I'll say first name. So with this, I'm going to run the program again, and then I'll say Edward, and I'll do Pi, and then it tells me that your full name is Pi Edward. You see, even though I typed Edward first before Pi, I chose to reverse the order when I was constructing the full name. I said it should bring the last name before the first name, and then it print it out. I think for starting Python programming, I don't want to overload you too much, and we also have just 10 minutes with Zoom. So please, in the next 10 minutes, any question at all, maybe you've tried programming before, you were struggling, Nana, please go. Any question at all? Yeah, Nana, please speak.
Yes. So with what you've done, the input statement, um, first and last name, you sort of define them as your variables. They become your variables.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, why did you not sort of just start with just an input or define your first and last name and do an input
And put it there.
and print? Yeah.
Okay. So let's do what Nana is saying. I'm going to comment this ones out. So what he's saying is I could have done first name, right? We don't store anything in it, right? Nana, I want to do this with you. We don't store anything in it, right? When we declare. Is that what you want?
Sorry, I was getting myself on mute.
You see, because
no. So define, if you define first name,
is equal to what?
So first name equals, yeah, say Nana. Yeah, last name Harrison.
From your name, I know you are fancy, Otteden.
Yeah, I'm not doing.
Fantastic.
And then print. So actually, no, sorry. Input. Do an input. So input your, what is your name?
That is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, okay. What is your name? Sorry, I'm not thinking through it.
I get what you are driving
your first
at.
Name?
Okay,
what is your first name?
Okay.
Then input, what is your second name?
Okay.
Then print. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. First name underscore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something like this, right? And then we print. Okay.
Yeah.
You see? This one will print Nana Harrison no matter what I type, and I'll explain to you.
Right.
So I type Edward. I type Pi. It says my name is Nana Harrison. The reason why is whatever the user types on line 8 and line 9, we didn't store it anywhere. So as far as this variable is concerned, perpetually, first name contains Nana. We never modified it. Last name contains Harrison. We never modified it. Instead, this is what we could have done. I could have done first name is equal to, and then I do last name is equal to. So at this point, the program will start by storing Nana in first name, Harrison in last name, but this will get overwritten by what I type. So we will never get to see Nana Harrison. So I store this and then we run this. So what is your name? I say Eddie Pi. Okay. But if I print what is in before I take the input, then I get to see Nana Harrison like this. You see? So here I am printing what I have already stored in there. Okay. And then on line 11 and 12, I modify them before I reprint. So let's run this. So if I do this, immediately it prints Nana Harrison. Okay. Before it asks, what is your name? And I'll say Eddie and then Pi. Nchata ase nti no at the BB share variable mu ensesa na owo ho afebol kosi the program no be end.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. All right, thank you.
All right. So we have 5 minutes. Any question? Any question at all? Any question? Or maybe you can also give me feedback like was my pace too fast? Was I too slow? How can I improve this in the next sessions? Okay. All right. Then I think we don't have any questions. So in the absence of further questions, we can end it here and then save ourselves the 4 minutes. I will immediately process the videos upload it on YouTube, and then watch out for a post on TID with both links, so that for those of you who want to rehearse, you can rehearse. For those who couldn't join, you can join. And then next week we will meet again to learn even more fun stuff. And on the WhatsApp, I will be posting videos that we need to watch before next Saturday, so that it will be easier. On that note, I'd like to thank you very much for honoring my invitation, and I'll see you, Kowalin, next Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, boss. We are grateful.
All right.
All right, thank you too, Eddie.
All right. Thank you.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Great teaching.
Okay, Charlie. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.